Good evening. Welcome to the January 17th meeting of the Manhattan Community Board 5 Land Use Housing and Zoning Committee. I'm Nancy Gosho, Chair of the committee. I'm joined by Julie Chu, who's Vice Chair. She's not arrived yet. So until she arrives, I'm going to ask Yaron to play that role and as Vice Chair. And then I'd like to go around the room first in the room, the committee members to introduce themselves. Why don't we start with
Yaron Nodi Victor.
Mrinal Vikram.
Zul Zolkowitz.
David Sigmund.
Kiran Patel.
Seth Ward.
Lev?
Lev Kimyagor.
Michael Greeley.
Okay, and online, who do we have joining us? And anyone? Yes, we
Hi.
have.
Hi.
Libby.
Libby Hutton, hi.
Hi. Okay, so any items voted on at this meeting tonight will be voted on by the full board at our Thursday, July 9th full board meeting. Before we start our agenda, are there any members of the public or committee members that have any new land use housing and zoning committee business items they'd like to present to us?
Who else could?
Okay. Call it in.
Yeah, David Shapiro, you should, and I think, David, you should be able to.
Oh,
Hi, folks. So I understand that on the committee, on the agenda today, there is an LED lighting and then also a landmark approval for a theater. I noticed Brad Levy, our controller mentioned that rents are up 7% this year over year, and that the vacancy rate is 1.57%. And so I'd like for us to address some of the housing concerns. And I think that there's a couple of items, COPA being one of them. This board, I don't think has had any sort of view on COPA. They've had no view on any of the 50,000 vacant rent stabilized units that remain in sort of limbo. And then finally, there's a group of councilmen that are proposing commercial rent stabilization. And that is something that we haven't opined on either as well. So those three things are what I see as being very, very major land use housing items that have not been on an agenda, and I would like to see those on an agenda. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to ask you to send me an email explaining specifically what you'd like to do with those topics so that we can then start working on addressing them, please. David?
Sure, I will do that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No. Seeing none, let's go on to our meeting. And the meeting will run in this order. After each presentation, we'll take questions from the committee. Then we'll take questions and comments from the public. And while there's no time limit on comments, we ask that you speak succinctly and avoid repetition of a prior speaker. Please use the raise hand function, and Yaron will call on you. After the public questions and comments, we will go into what's called our business session, where only committee members and board members can participate in the discussion. There'll be no further input from the public unless recognized by the chair, which is me. Board members will be promoted to panelists for the business session. And I think we have two that we have promoted already. So then I would call for a motion, a second, and take a vote. And then after the last agenda item, we'll adjourn the meeting. So on this agenda tonight, we have one application for a text amendment and a presentation about light pollution, responsible lighting principles, and potential zoning and policy tools to mitigate detrimental impacts on residential neighborhoods. So let's start with the application for a zoning text amendment, which is by the Roundabout Theater, which owns Studio 54. Michael Greeley and I visited the site. And Michael, do you have any comments or anything you'd like to say before we begin?
Just that this is about a rehabilitation about the theater, and they're asking for additional development rights for the rehabilitation.
Okay, so why don't we go to our applicant and your presentation, please?
Thank you, Chair and members of the Community Board 5 Land Use Committee. Thank you for your time with us this evening. My name is Sarah Mercanti. I'm the Director of Government Relations here at Roundabout Theater Company. I am just going to give a very brief overview of who Roundabout is as a not-for-profit institution in New York City, and then I will hand it off to my colleagues on the call with us tonight to review our requested actions, as well as do a deeper dive into the proposed rehabilitation work of Studio 54. So I will just briefly introduce us. So many of you might know us already, but Roundabout Theater was originally founded in 1965. And we are one of New York City's anchoring not-for-profit institutions. We operate 5 theaters on and off Broadway throughout Manhattan's theater district year-round, reaching approximately 400,000 theater goers and employing over 1,500 staff each year. Our productions have now been recognized with over 40 Tony Awards. This year, we took home 3 Tonys for Best Costume Design of a Play for Fallen Angels, Best New Play with Liberation, and Best Lead Actress in a Play for the revival of Oedipus that was at Studio 54. As a leading nonprofit institution, Roundabout has always pioneered programs that directly respond to the needs of our community and our industry. So if you'll see on the next slide, 30 years ago, we launched Education at Roundabout, where we not only deliver tailored artist in residency programs to New York City public schools and New York public libraries, but we also, for 10 years, have operated a nationally recognized theatrical workforce development program. So across our continuum of education programs, we are really committed to bridging gaps in arts access and pathways to careers in the arts for young people and lifelong learners across the city. Our theatrical workforce development program has a really strong connection with our public high schools. So our high schools really serve as that initial moment of exposure to the arts, whether that is as an audience member or perhaps an artist themselves, or we even turn our young students onto the possibility of being a technician backstage. So TWDP was, as I mentioned, founded 10 years ago, and today we're really proud of our young New Yorkers. We've served over 150 to date, and 83% of them continue to work in the field. Perhaps most excitingly, in the most recent Broadway season, we've had TWDP fellows working on leading shows like Aladdin, Book of Mormon, and even Buena Vista Social Club. And this program is really designed to meet the rising demand for technical theater workers and create opportunity for New York City residents. And our community partnerships initiative, those are the library partnerships that I mentioned, really just replicating our school model to really bring Roundabout into the 5 boroughs. We're partnering with branches of New York Public Library in Staten Island, the Bronx, and Queens as well. And Roundabout has had a 30-year-long commitment to access in our theaters as well. So we were one of the first nonprofits to pioneer signed interpretive performances. We've been partnering with Hands On since 1995. Those are still going strong. And we also have relaxed performances and community nights where we partner with community-based institutions and tie in the programming on our stages with their missions for their constituents. So and Studio 54, before I hand it off, I'll just say that it is critical in delivering all tenets of Roundabout's mission. So we really appreciate your time listening to how we can preserve its longevity in the Broadway community. So I will hand it off to Carol Rosenthal with Fried Frank. Talk about the requested actions.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Really nice to see you this evening. I'm Carol Rosenthal. I'm Senior Counsel at Fried Frank, and we're Land Use Counsel to Roundabout Theater. The application has two components to it. One is a special permit for a theater rehabilitation bonus. This special permit has been on the books since 1992. No, 1992, and we have, has only been used 3 times in its history. The theater, special theater district is was the first special district in Manhattan, and it's been around a lot. This bonus was specifically to help theaters have the wherewithal to rehabilitate, to preserve the theater industry, to preserve the theater district in Manhattan as a premier location for shows and for the city. The second part of our action is a text amendment, because the bonus that we are applying for is, we can't use it on the site, which is what the rehabilitation bonus says right now. We can't use it on the site because the site is maxed out with base floor area from a time before when Roundabout was a legitimate theater. And we'll get into a little bit of the very interesting history and how we get to where we are today, and the need for this rehabilitation. So the text amendment would allow us to use the bonus provisions off-site. It would need to be within the theater district. It would be limited to a 20% addition on the receiving site. And it would be going through at some future date. We have to actually do the rehabilitation first before we're entitled to it. And it would be used at some future date through an existing certification process that's already in the zoning. So it would, we're using existing tools in the zoning, shifting them so that we can apply for and be able to use the theater rehabilitation bonus. So if you go to the next slide, just to locate us, you'll see in the yellow where the theater is located within the theater district between 53rd and 54th Street. On the next slide, this is the actual site. And it is comprised, the zoning lot is comprised of 3 different lots: Studio 54, and then a lot 58 above it, and then a lot 1 adjacent to it. And I'm going to do a closer up on the next slide, just to indicate a little bit more about the site. In yellow is the actual theater. That's where the seats are, the stage and the like. The entrance to the theater is from 54th Street. It is an entryway that goes, it's an access entry through an existing 19-story office building. So it's Studio 54, the entrance is on 54th Street, but the actual theater is on 53rd Street. So on the next slide, this is to show some of the existing conditions of the theater. Here's the entry from 54th Street. That's where you enter, where the easement is that I mentioned under the office building. The next is the 53rd Street entrance, which is really, that's the back of the theater in many ways, but that's where the actual building is located. And then the last building is the corner building that we share zoning lot with, which is much taller. Then on the next slide, the history of this building is interesting. It was built, this theater is from 1927. It was built as the Gallo Opera House in competition with Carnegie. And we know how that turned out. The theater was only open for a couple of years as an opera house. And then finally in 1943, CBS purchased the theater, renamed it Studio 54, and turned it into a radio and a television studio. At that time, one of the things they did to accomplish that was to take what had been a more traditional theater types setup with the stage and flatten it out so they could have their show productions on it. So what had been an orchestra pit in that red area disappeared, and it was flattened to use for the TV shows, etc., and including Password, for any of you who remember that show, and Captain Kangaroo were some of the shows. Then in over the years, CBS left, and the building was converted in 1977 to its current, its most famous name these days, which is Studio 54, and all of the nightlife, etc., that happened in that period of time. At that time, the floor was also, you can't tell as well on this picture, but the seats were also flattened to some extent, so that you could have a dance floor that accomplished the entire area. Studio 54 actually only lasted a few years, and then the site was vacant and went through some other nightclub activities. None of them really worked. And finally, the owners in 1944, Allied Partners purchased Studio 54 and owned it for some years. And in 1998, Roundabout temporarily leased it. They had been showing Cabaret in another location. There was a crane fall or something in that location. This was perfect for Cabaret. It already had the flat floor. So they moved there in 1998 for Cabaret, and then in 2003, with the city's help, purchased the building. And that's how it's remained for many, many years until today. So on the next slide, this is the existing conditions of the theater. Not great, but it still does great shows. But the theater has, you can tell the condition here with the flat area for the television and radio studios, and then seats had been rebuilt in order to have people have a view of the stage, and we'll get into a little bit about the problems that has created. And then the next slide, upstairs, and then in the very tallest balcony, you have seats that are, if you have any degree of vertigo or just any fear of heights, it's terrible. I shouldn't say that, but anyway, it's a very challenging area. So going back to the text and the bonus is has certain findings, and those findings are that you have substantial rehabilitation work qualifying for floor area bonus, consisting of major structural changes for the purpose of improving a theater's design and its commercial viability for legitimate theater use. Examples of substantial rehabilitation are expanding stage wings, re-raking the orchestra, increased rehearsal, dressing room, or lobby and ancillary spaces, improving accessibility beyond what's required, and things that really are to bring it into commercial viability for the next 50 years or whatever. It doesn't mean you can defer your maintenance or defer things and paint it, and that doesn't count. So I'm going to turn this over to Jane, who is in charge of all the theater's physical facility, to talk about what we're doing and how we more than amply meet these requirements.
Thanks, Carol. My name is Jane Lynn. I am the Director of Real Estate at Roundabout Theater, and we've been working with an amazing team of designers and engineers led by David Rockwell and Ennead Architects. I just want to take this opportunity and show you all some of the challenges we have with our theater and our objectives with the renovated project. I will note that Studio 54 for us is our premier musical venue. We do operate, as Sarah mentioned, other theaters. Some we use as rentals, and another we use as our premier playhouse. So this is the location where we are looking to have our musical venues. So in the next slide, I'll walk through in more detail some of the challenges. So we don't actually have a stage at Studio 54, as Carol mentioned. Through its long history, the stage actually disappeared when they leveled out the floor. So we no longer have a stage or orchestra pit. And then our seating, raking, or the slope of the seats, we had to rebuild on top of the floor, which causes just sightline challenges, and when you're sitting in the rear of the orchestra, you're very, very close to the underside of the mezzanine. So in the next slide, we'll talk more about what we're gonna do. So as part of the project, we are going to restore the stage. So and with the stage is what we call a stage trap system. And what that allows us to do is to have automation. So if you've ever been to a show and you see somebody popping out of the floor or a piece of scenery coming out of the floor, that's called automation. And we are currently not able to do any of that because we don't have a stage and we don't have a trap room. All of that got filled in when CBS Studios and Studio 54 came into the building. So the other part that we discussed was our seating. So currently we built stack seating on top of a flat floor. What we'll do is restore what's called the rake of the floor, which is essentially slope seating that allows you to have much better sight lines so that you're sitting just above, a little bit higher than the person in front of you. So as part of this project, we will be restoring the rake of the floor and optimizing all of the sight lines in the orchestra level. And then on the next slide, you'll see that when we do all of that, we're also going to be able to restore the orchestra pit. That all has been filled in to date. So next slide. The other challenges that we have in the building is the way it's currently configured. We are focused on our front of house and our circulation. And what that means for front of house is really all the spaces that our patrons, the audience, is able to access. So things such as bars and bathrooms, box office, things of that nature are what's in our front of house. So let's go to the next slide. What we currently have is that our orchestra, at the back of the orchestra is where our bar is located. So we're going to be relocating the bar into what you see is letter B. And that moves it out of the house. And what that does is it allows our audience members to access the bar before the show as well as during intermission. Currently, with intermission, because the bar's in the actual theater where the performance is happening, we are unable to set up the bar for intermission. And so what that means is everybody's got to go upstairs, which creates a bottleneck and part of the circulation challenges that we're having. We're also going to be increasing the number of restrooms on the ground level. And again, that will help with some of the crowding we have on the mezzanine level, which is where most of our bathrooms are located. To assist with that, we're also going to be adding the elevator. We currently, because it was built in 1927, we do not have an elevator in this building. With the elevator, we're actually able to then redistribute all of our bathrooms throughout the building and to improve that circulation level. And lastly, the box office, which is in our main lobby, we're going to be making that accessible. It currently does not have the ADA access for the folks that are selling the tickets, buying the tickets. So all of that will be addressed as part of this project. Backstage. So we talked about the front of house. This is the back of house areas. And the back of house areas are areas that support our artists. So it's the actors, it's our crew staff that operate the show. That's the back of house spaces. We don't have enough dressing rooms. The photographs that you see here on the image in the middle, as well as on the right side, that's what we call our green room. That actually is going to become the trap room. So again, we wouldn't have the green room. We wouldn't have our wardrobe. Our wardrobe lives there. So all of that needs to get relocated when we actually restore the stage and our trap room. So all those services are things that are part of this scope of work. So the next image. All these areas, so I've mentioned the relocation. So the area that is in purple below the seats, the orchestra street seats, That's all going to be new excavated areas to support our back of the house. New dressing rooms, new wardrobe areas, new laundry facilities, new restrooms, all servicing our artists and our crew. We'll also be adding an elevator at the stage level, and that now makes all of our back of house spaces accessible. We currently do not have that. We don't have accessible dressing rooms. Our wardrobe is not accessible. So all of that will now be able to support artists, whether they are in a wheelchair, they've broken their leg, you know, they have a walker. All of that actually now is possible once we add in the elevator with all the new spaces down below. We're also going to add what is called wing space on the stage. So there's a stage right and a stage left. And when you go to a show, sometimes you'll see scenic elements coming onto the stage from the side, the curtains comes down, and all of a sudden a large scenic element appears. Those are usually on house right or stage right or left. So we currently don't have that space because we have to come and build a stage with every show. So now we're going to be able to have a stage left and a stage right where our set scenery pieces can come onto the stage. We're going to go to the next. So again, circulation, accessibility are challenges within this space. To get upstairs, the image on the right is the stair that's in the back of the orchestra. That is currently the only way to get upstairs into the mezzanine. So again, there's a bar upstairs, there's restrooms upstairs, and that was where majority of those services live with no access via elevator. So we're going to go to the next slide. The mezzanine, this is the image of our mezzanine. Stairs all congregate, land on this floor, the bar, what's called vomitoriums, which essentially are sound light locks to the mezzanine level, all land here, and we have a large, real congestion problem. Queues of people trying to wait for the bathrooms, because these are the majority of bathrooms we have in the building, coming from the downstairs as well as coming from the mezzanine, all happen right here. So again, adding an elevator will distribute that across the building. So we'll go to the next image. Carol had mentioned some of the seats on our mezzanine level. So this was all original to the building. It has a very steep angle to it. The row to row between seats is very tight, and our cross aisles actually slope towards the stage. It's not flat. So we have a lot of concerns, safety concerns. You know, there are some, you know, we reminded folks all the time as they come into the theater to be careful. Our ushers, we staff more ushers on this level to make sure that people are navigating the balcony levels in the safest way as possible. But there's just some real physicality to this area. So the next slide. As I mentioned, one of the components that we're focused on is our elevator. So we have an alley space adjacent to the theater that is part of our property. And so we will be adding an elevator that will be servicing all the floors in this building, from the basement level all the way up to a technical control room where the lighting happens, all the way up close to the roof. So that's going to now provide access to that level, to the rear of the balcony, to the cross aisle of the balcony, to the new bar at the mezzanine level, to the rear of the seating of the orchestra level, the lobby level, and then to the lowest level of the building. So we're going to go to the next slide. In order to achieve all of that, we actually will be demolishing the balcony. And we will be reworking the sight lines and the rake. Again, the slope of the seats. We're going to rework all of that to improve the sight lines. We're also going to be able to increase the number of premium seats, what's letter E, in our mezzanine, in our balconies. add accessible seats on that level, and then reduce the number of the seats in the rear mezzanine, which is letter F, and also be able to add accessible seats at that level. So we're going to be able to redistribute accessible seats throughout the theater. We currently have 8 accessible seats in the theater. They are all on the first 3 rows of the orchestra level. And here we will be able to redistribute all those seats, and we're going to increase our accessible seats to 15. And then we're going to add bariatric seats as well. Mechanical systems, communication systems, they're very dated. A lot of distribution is very challenged for the stage sets. So we're going to be reworking all of the distribution and updating all the mechanical systems. The building will meet LEED Gold. We will go all electric. So that's all part of it. We are also going to improve our sound barrier doors on 53rd Street. So acoustic treatments throughout the theater. So all of that will be done as part of this project. And so here we're just going to show you some of the imagery that we've been working with our design team on. This is the entrance on 54th Street. One of the components is we are looking to introduce back to the building. The building originally had a blade sign. It said the Gallo. We're going to look to reintroduce that to this site. And then we currently have a marquee, and so we're going to keep the marquee. We are going to introduce some lighting, better lighting on the underside of the marquee, just for safety reasons as well, and just to have a better sense of place on the street. Next slide. This is the lobby of the building when you come in on 54th Street. For the most part, this space will be more like a restoration. All the terrazzo floor will remain. We'll repair that and restore that. All of the glass walls that's currently existing, we're going to do a lot of repair work on that, adding some lighting. All the lighting will go LED. And then doing some of the plaster work here as well. But the box office is in this space. And again, focus on accessibility for the box office. This is what we're calling the inner lobby. This is where we're going to introduce the new bar, pulling it out from the back of the orchestra into this. So this is the space leading into the house, into the seating area. This is a space where you're going to be able to access bathrooms, increase bathrooms, as well as the elevator. And the next image, this is the new bar on the mezzanine level. In order to get the accessible access to the seats at the balcony level, we are introducing an interstitial level. So you see these stairs going up to a landing. That landing will now take you to the new cross aisle. So the bar is accessible, and then there'll be an interstitial landing that will then take you into the theater on the balcony levels, and that's where those accessible seats are. Bathrooms will be down on this level with the bar, and then access will be slightly up, and again, another elevator landing on that level as well. And this is the last image. This is the restored, I don't want to say fully restored house, but there's a lot of technical elements that we are adding, acoustic elements. It's important to us to keep the character of the theater. Artists love the space. So wherever possible, we are trying to keep the character, the artistry of the plasterwork that's in the space. Acknowledging that in order to make the improvements, we will be rebuilding all of those balcony mezzanine seats. So with that, I think, am I turning it back over to you, Carol?
Sure. Yeah, that's the extent of our presentation. And we're here to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Now we're going to see if there are questions from our committee first, our land use committee. And Michael, would you lead us off with anything that you might have?
So the main, thank you for the presentation. I think you explained all the rehabilitation work, but can you talk more about the text amendment that you're proposing? That you want to say that the previously in 81 745, the bulk and light and air is being removed, and that you're gonna follow the regular or the other guidelines under other text.
Yeah,
other
sure,
parts.
sure.
So-
So right now in the zoning resolution, there are two different sections that we're seeking to modify. One is the special permit itself. So this is a special permit for the theater rehabilitation bonus. And currently it has a requirement that your bonus has to be used on your site. It has to be used in the zoning lot on which you are. We don't have, there's no development, there's nothing to take or use the bonus area on our site. It's fully built out, and that was done way before we got involved or we were there or a theater. So in order to allow us to be able to take advantage of the bonus for the rehab work and to do the rehab work that the bonus is for, we're asking that the requirement that it be on site be limited. So that once that's out, once you ask to take that out, then what happens is you would need to meet the requirements for the second text, and the second text is the one that talks about an existing method through a certification process, which goes to the City Planning Commission, but isn't a full ULURP. And what the city does is if you have excess floor area on your site, then you're allowed right now, all of the theaters that have excess floor area, they're allowed to move it within the district. Once they go through the commission determines certain things. It determines that, first of all, that it has excess development rights. Secondly, that the theater has to commit to being a legitimate theater indefinitely if they're going to transfer their development rights. Third, the theater, when it does transfer the development rights, there's a portion of the payment to the theater that goes to the district fund. And so it replenishes that over the years. And then finally, the site that receives it is limited. It can't receive, unlimited amounts. It's limited to 20% of the floor area it's otherwise permitted. So what would happen with our text change is one could do the work as required under the theater rehabilitation bonus and then have another alternative. Right now we couldn't use the bonus, and have an alternative to be able to use it by using it off-site at another location. So all of the text changes that you see are about making that happen. We can go through them individually and we're happy to do that, but that's the big picture component of it. So we would Roundabout, theaters like Roundabout would also have an opportunity, like other theaters, many other theaters, to be able to transfer their excess floor area from their site to other sites within the theater district.
I have a question. The 20% max, is not listed here. Is that in some other place of the zoning resolution? You mentioned that a couple of times.
It is in the regulations having to do with the receiving site.
Okay, which has not been selected yet. So if the receiving site uses the maximum of 20%, and you still have more left over, then you can transfer the development rights to a second site, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay,
I have a question.
wait,
Yeah.
let's just, Michael, do you have anything else?
Just, we're gonna let people and I'll ask later.
Okay,
Love.
Lev,
Yeah, so how'd you get to 187,000?
187,000.
Yeah,
Do we
783.
have, do we have the zoning? No. So what, the way the bonus, for this location is, 4.4%, of the, 4.4 FAR. So our zoning lot is based on the zoning lot. Oh, here we go. Here are the numbers. So there's lot 1, lot 10, and lot 58, all part of the same zoning lot. The base FAR is 10. That has all been used. The bonus floor area, if we do all of the rehabilitation work, is 4.4 FAR. And so that multiplied by the zoning lot area 42,678 is how we get to 187,783. We're using about 6,000 of that floor area. We're using on site to do that elevator that Jane showed, that's going to be able to have the access for handicapped and for everyone who needs an elevator in the theater. But the remainder is what we would want to be able to transfer.
But those areas were, the theater areas were used to erect the building next door, right? At one point.
Yeah, when this was, in the days of Studio 54 and thereafter, the building was in a ton of financial trouble. And so at that point in time, it wasn't a theater. And they were looking to try and keep it out of, bankruptcy court or whatever. And yeah, they sold that over to the building on lot 1. So that's where that got its bulk from.
Kieran?
My question was relating to the accessibility, so I can go ahead. So again, thanks for the presentation. We applaud the enhanced accessibility. So as I understood it, you currently have 8 accessible seats in the first 3 rows of the orchestra. You talked about the new total will be 15 accessible seats. You talked about a redistribution, some seats in the back of the mezzanine. Will any of these accessible seats be retained in the front of the house?
They're not in the front of the house, or first rows of the orchestra are not the best seats. So they're actually going to be better premium seats in the center of the orchestra on the side, so that we can get a ramp down into that area. But it's in the center of the orchestra. So we'll have some seats in the center of the orchestra, in the back of the orchestra, at the cross aisle of the reconfigured mezzanine, and then all the way in the back as well. So 4 locations across the theater will have accessible seats.
Understood. It was just a check that while you kind of doubled the seats, but there was talk about adding premium seats, that we didn't just shove the accessible seats in the back. That's all. Thank you.
Bruno?
I have a couple of questions. So I know that the bar has, the receiving site has not been identified, but is there a radius constraint there on how far out you can go?
It has to be within the theater district.
The theater district.
Theater
okay.
special district.
Yes.
And then do you have an estimate for what all this work is going to cost?
The work within the theater?
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Our estimated total project cost is roughly $105 million.
And then do we know how much the additional air rights are going to be worth? I mean, just an estimate.
It's really market driven, and there's a ton of competition for these development rights, because other buildings that have base floor area available can go through the same process. So it really is going to depend on when we sell it, to whom we sell it, what the market's like. There's a lot of unknowns about that. So we really can't say right now how much or exactly when it would be realized.
Yeah, I mean, but what's a conservative estimate, just knowing what the comparables look like? Or
it would be I would be making it up if I it's also it's going to be driven by where people need development rights. We're also competing with landmarks. We're competing with other sites. So the market has been slow for these over the years. And so we really don't know when or where Or we'd have, even when is gonna make it a present value calculation that is unknown as well. So I really don't know.
And so
We
if
don't
you,
know, sorry. We don't know what drives the numbers, but we have seen numbers ranging anywhere from $200 a square foot to over $500 a square foot in the last 10 years.
okay, and so then how does the math work? So for example, those air rates, but you get the air rates only after you've done the improvements on site, right?
Yes, you have to, so you'd have to,
So
have.
let's just say you've,
completed.
what you said?
Actually,
105 is the estimate, but what's the revenue?
Seems like between 30 and 90 million
So-
for their estimates. 180,000 square feet times.
Oh, so it's gonna be less, so you estimate that the air rates are gonna be less than the cost of the renovation?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Oh, missing
especially
the-
yeah.
Well, I don't know, she said 200 to 500.
200 to 500 for 180,000.
So 500 times 180,000
Yeah,
is
that's like
90 million.
yeah.
So it seems short if those numbers are right.
So there will likely not be a community benefit contribution then? Is that-
Well, the theater,
Yeah.
the theater.
Oh, but the contribution to the district fund, there's not gonna be a contribution to the district fund?
Yes, the,
No, there will
when the
be.
receiving.
The proceeds.
when the-
How does that work? How does the math work? So like, is there a percentage of the total money you raise from the air rates?
No, it's $10 something.
I think realistically, this is, what we're gonna need to do is we're gonna need to borrow the money and a bridge loan. Get a contract before that can be a security for the borrowed money. And then use that money to build because we have to finish it before we can sell it and then sell it and pay back the loan. I think
Wait.
yeah.
The contribution to the district fund, how is that calculated?
It's like a tax.
It's
Yeah.
based on the zoning resolution has a number that is created and it is increased every 3, 5, 10 years by the theater district fund. So they decide what that number is going to be on an annual, every so often.
Understood. Then my last question is while this work is going on, what happens to 54 below? Is that gonna be closed as well?
The people below, I'm sorry,
54 below the cabaret location?
there's no one living below the or occupying below the theater site. It's just that back lot that I showed. It's just a theater site. The thing that sometimes that we were explaining is that when you go into the theater, there's like a walkway that you go through, and that above that is this 16-story office building.
But 54 below is in the office building. It's not underneath the actual theater.
I see.
And I'll also just add as well, Roundabout has been conducting, we just went public last month, but for the past 3 years, we've been in the silent phase of a major capital campaign, raising private funds for this renovation project as well. We've also received over $14 million in appropriations from the city of New York, as well as a $1 million federal earmark for this capital work. So we have almost $50 million in total raised to date from private and public sources as well.
Kevin?
Just a sense of, do you know exactly how many, or even a rough idea of how many of the other theaters within the district might qualify under the text amendment? New text amendment?
Well, what we can tell you is that this text has been on the books since 1982, and there have been to date 3 theaters that have sought the rehabilitation text. So it is not used very often at all. We have heard that there's one other theater that is also looking at this. So, you know, there may well be other theaters, but historically, there really haven't been, it really hasn't been very popular.
Is that part of the reason why you chose to do a text amendment rather than just maybe do a special permit and you guys specifically? Just in order to kind of open it up to more folks, maybe?
Yeah, well, we're doing the special permit and just to also note, any other theater that would use this mechanism also has to have a special permit and go through ULURP. You can't do this without that special permit. So it is going to be, again, you know, it's not as of right, so it's not something that people will do very cavalierly. But we did the text change this way, working with closely with city planning and following, you know, what they were suggesting in terms of protections for the city. And, you know, we have to do a restrictive declaration that requires us to remain a theater and the like. So that we did that in that context. And also the land use basis for it was considered to be helping theaters. So that was the way it was created.
Got it. And
I don't know
maybe
if that
I'm
answers
using-
your question, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm using the phrase special permit improperly, but I just mean, was there a way to do this so that it only applied to your theater specifically? Or is there a bigger picture reason why it applies to?
Yeah, no, it's very hard. It's very hard to do that because you don't want to use the land use mechanism as like a private thing for one entity. So that was it, you know, it may be possible. I would never say never, but it was difficult to conceive of it in that way.
Got it. Thank you.
Other questions from the committee? Michael?
The ADA accessible seats, the 15, the bariatric is included in the 15, or those are additional?
Those would be additional.
And how many of them are there?
We're still working on the layouts, but we would look to have probably bariatric seats in every section of the theater. So in the front of the orchestra, rear of the orchestra, in the seating at the rear of the cross out the front mezzanine, and then at the back mezzanine.
1, 2 of each section, or?
I mean, I would say a minimum of one, but we usually try to put at least 2.
Okay, and how
We
many?
have to do the layouts, and then we'll be able to confirm.
And then related, then how many seats total are in the theater now, and how many seats do you forecast in the new layout?
Total seats?
Yeah,
Total seats, we currently have just over 1,000, about 1,000, I think it's 1,001. And then the new seats actually, because of the reconfiguration, is slightly lower at, Francel, what's that number?
971 if the orchestra pit is in use. If it's infilled, which it can be, and temporary seats put on top of it, then it goes up to about what it is now, 1,001, 1,002.
Athena?
Hi, just a question on the denominator of that 44%, because the incentive seems to be applied to the theater only, and the total floor area that you're calculating is the merged lot, right? So there's the condo and the office building. Sounds like there weren't a lot of precedents, you were saying, of other theaters getting the bonus. I'm just curious about, are there legal ambiguities about which phase to use there?
I'm sorry, could you repeat? Are there any what about which space to use? I just didn't hear you.
Is there any legal ambiguity? Like, did the city sign off on using this denominator for the 44%?
Oh, no, it's very clear in the zoning resolution that it's based on the zoning lot. The only other, but one of the things the city does look to is and one, it may be more subjective, is how much are you doing? So that if you're doing the full gamut of what you need to do, like the full renovation, the full amount, then it's considered worthy of the full bonus. And so that's how they work it through. And I will also add that they don't make that decision just on their own or just relying on us. They engage a third-party consultant, or we pay for it, but they have to approve it, that looks at what we're doing and compares it to the other ones that have been done in terms of the quantity of the work we're doing.
I have another question, and first of all, congratulations on Oedipus. I saw it and it's provocative but phenomenal. And the unfortunate circumstance of that was I sat in the second last row, and I did experience the vertical. And I was curious about, after the rehabilitation, do you foresee those roles being further apart from each other? Or are they still gonna be as close, or just gonna be at a slower, a shorter slope?
We do expect so the code actually will require us to separate the seats, the row to row, a little bit more. So we do anticipate that. When we renovate all of this, we're actually going to be able, because of the new slope in the orchestra level, increase a number of seats in the orchestra level and decrease the total number of seats in the mezzanine. And so that does allow us to increase the row to row depth on those seats. So although we're keeping roughly the same number of seats throughout the building, we're redistributing them, having less upstairs, and then be able to increase our row to row depth.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Yaron, do we have any questions from the public?
No, but Julie's here.
Oh,
also.
okay.
We do. We have one question or comment from the public.
Okay, so
Someone needs
we're
to,
doing the public now and then go.
it's Charles Nye, but someone needs to promote. I don't think. Are you able to promote him?
Julie, do you know how to promote him?
To do it from here. Hey, Charles, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have some questions for the applicants. I just want some clarification. Earlier you asked about accessible seating, and you mentioned that the front of the house is not the greatest place to have it. But from my experience of going to shows at Schubert-owned theaters, they have blind and visually impaired seats in row B in the front. So I just want a little bit of clarification why that organization, which has a lot of audio described productions for the blind, has the seats in the front, but you guys feel like that wouldn't be a good place to have extra accessible seating. I also would like to know if the elevator is going to have audio output to notify each floor that is going by. And my final question is, from my experience of trying to go to a roundabout theater, for example, Mrs. Doubtfire, that show had no audio description. And I was just wondering if there is going to be audio described capabilities of productions, not just at Studio 54, but in your other theaters, like the Schubert organization has done very well with all their theaters. So I'm wondering if there's going to be more improvement with that. Thank you very much.
So I can address some of the seats for the accessible seats. We are talking about the wheelchair location seats. So when you are at the front of the orchestra level, it's more about a sight line. So if you are visually impaired and you would like to sit closer, that's still absolutely possible. It's just the sight line, because you're looking up towards the stage more than you are looking straight out. Those seats kind of in the center of the orchestra just have a better sight line. But anybody, the theater is being designed in such a way that we are optimizing all of the sightlines and all the seats. We're relaying everything out. We're not reusing any seats. We are changing the rake on the orchestra level as well as the mezzanine level. So we are looking to optimize all the seats for viewing. But in terms of just sightline issues, challenges, we are center orchestra seats are usually identified as more premium seats. So we are going to be incorporating into the theater. We currently do not have any induction loop. We will be incorporating what's called the Auracast system, which is a Bluetooth-based system for the hearing impaired. We also currently in our shows incorporate what's called GalaPro, which is it's a text-based, yeah. Sarah.
Yeah, I was saying, that's the part I was gonna chime in with, Jane. Thank you. In all of our theaters, we do, and we have for several years now, you utilize this GalaPro app. It's an app on your smartphone, and it does provide audio description services as well as subtitles. It even offers language translation. The challenge that exists with that is that it takes a while for the app to transcribe the show, or once the show is frozen, after preview period is when, we start to input that data from the show into the program. So it does take several weeks into the run of our shows in order for that service to be live, but that is something that is available to our patrons as well. And we also offer enlarged programs as well on site for those who might ask, request one.
No other questions from the public.
Okay, seeing no other public input on this, we're going to now go into our business session where we will have more questions and comments, and we will attempt to deliberate and come up with a draft resolution that will be written by Michael Greeley. So, yes, Zool.
So as a working member of the film, theater, and broadcasting industry since the 70s, I hold Roundabout in the highest respect, along with the Public Theater, La Mama, Carnegie Hall, so many others, particularly in terms of arts access and workforce development. And as more recently, the artistic director of a theater company, itinerant company, boy, I know all too well the need for the renovation of the theaters that we have and the ability to do the hybrid work that so many of us want us today. I'm in great support of what you're trying to do here.
I would just like to say that Michael and I had a site visit, and the building's in very bad condition. The electrical systems are so outdated. It's impossible to do anything really digital like we expect on Broadway. So they really are compromised severely by lack of a 21st century theater. So
And I'll just add one more thing to that, because since COVID, we've really had very, very different roles, both in terms, through Directors Guild and other groups. We've really come up with different work rules and other things that mean we need much better green space, of course, rehearsal space, but we have such a tremendous need in this industry for the renovation and the development of much more modern theaters, and you guys are great stewards of the arts.
So they have a lighting booth at the top level. You can only get up there by ladder. There's no bathroom up there. So when those lighting people go up there, they're stuck for the whole time. That's it.
They use a bottle.
I don't know.
That's inside.
I guess it's all mess. I don't know, but whatever.
I wanna know.
This is really
No.
good. I think the thing that's really important about this text amendment is it allows the development rights to be transferred within the theater district, not just on the site. And I think that's really important. I think that will open up more opportunities for these development sites to be used and to have more renovation to theater. So I fully support this application, and Michael, you do too, right?
I support it because, like you were saying, Nancy, and the provisions of the regular theater, selling their air rights to a site anywhere in a theater district, they basically is similar to what they're excising with this text amendment, so it's not, we're not losing anything, basically.
And it's very similar to what actually East Midtown rezoning,
Yeah.
where St. Bart's and St. Patrick's and these churches and these historic sites can now transfer their air rights through a whole area rather than just an adjacent site, because that's too limiting.
And I think we might just want to confirm, Roundabout, unlike Schubert, is a nonprofit, and I don't believe there's any intention to change that.
Was that a question for them?
It's just confirm that.
Okay. No, we don't need to confirm that. They're remaining a nonprofit. Are there any other comments? We're done with questions, Murnau.
I guess I'm just struggling with the community benefit aspect of it a little bit. I mean, I understand obviously repairing the theater, which is run by a nonprofit, and I've been to Studio 54 multiple times. I saw Oedipus there. It was great. Better than it was in London. But it just I don't have an answer, but to the extent that air right goes to a new version or new residential building, is there a possibility of asking for an affordability requirement there? I don't know, I'm spitballing here.
I think.
I know it's limited to the theater
Well,
district.
I just think we have to allow them to put their air rights up for sale. Then I think it will come back to us, the receiving site, and that, at that point, we can make our comments.
I'm getting ahead of us. Yeah.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
And there's the community benefit of having a better working theater for the theater
Of
workers
course,
and
yeah,
actors.
and AD accessibility, which is, I think, is a big deal. Yeah.
Any other comments from the committee? Onker.
I'm also supportive. I think this is a great plan. I also think that the awarding the text changes that are proposed are consistent with the policy of this, which is to encourage rehabilitation of our theaters and help offset some of the costs of that by creating air rights that can be monetized. It looks like, you know, it may be close to the amount of the loan here, maybe a little bit less, but it could help sort of substantially fund this. I think that's very reasonable. My only other comment would be, I wish that we would sometimes approach for-profit developers with the same sort of generosity that we are here with the nonprofit ones, because there are many benefits, as you're noting, jobs for people in the theater industry, that also get created by some of the for-profit developers who we sometimes, they'll meet the policy goals of, say, a transit-oriented improvement or a public space. They'll where we try. I'm just making a comment where I think sometimes we add to the requirements or challenge them more. Here, I think you've met everything that's required by the policy here, and we should go forward with it.
I don't think we are granting this because it's a nonprofit. We're granting it because they are renovating the theater and we're allowing them to transfer the development rights to a site that's not adjacent. And that's the text amendment. So there's nothing in the text amendment that says this is only for nonprofit.
No, I
So
understand. And just to clarify what I'm saying,
Theaters as well.
it's they're meeting the policy goal here, which is rehabilitation of the theater. I have seen other examples where developers have met the policy goals of, say, improving a subway for its access or creating a publicly a pop space. And we are much more difficult with that. And I think my observation is I think there's something underlying that. And people like theaters and people don't like real estate developers.
Well,
but it's okay.
wait,
I
wait,
agree.
wait,
That was just a
let-
comment.
Okay, I know, but let's just stay focused on the
Yeah,
issue.
sure,
Let's
keep
just
going.
stay focused on that. David.
So I just a comment on Muriel's comment, which is, as I see it here, when these air rights development rights are ultimately sold to a developer, that developer will pay a fee, which is now close to $25 a foot into the theater fund. So that's the community benefit. I mean, effectively, it nets down, it's part of the total price, but it goes into the fund. So that, that's a pretty direct benefit on 187,000.
So, how are we on putting together a resolution?
Can you make a motion, Michael?
Or is there any conditions? Because I'm not hearing anything. So I just move to approve.
Second.
So let's take it to a vote.
Okay, Seth,
Yes.
Luna, I'm a yes, Bonker,
Yes.
Evan,
Yes. Sorry.
Nancy,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Libby,
Yes.
Lev,
Yep.
you're on,
Yeah.
Karen,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Myrtle,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
and Chris.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. We look forward to seeing the newly renovated theater. Good luck to you. Can't wait to see it and come to a performance.
I'm sorry. I missed Liv.
Thank you.
Thank you
very
so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
What's that, Wayne?
Oh, Libby voted. Libby voted.
Wait, so 302,000.
So it's unanimous?
Yes.
Yes. We have a unanimous vote on this. Okay? Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you all.
you.
Thank you
Have
all
a
for your
good night.
time and service. Thank you.
So now we're gonna switch gears and we're gonna get some information about lighting from Royu Lee. Royu, you have the floor. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna share the screen first. Hey, are you able to hear me well, or do I need to?
Just
unmute?
speak up.
Okay,
Outside voice.
okay, so hi everyone, my name is Roy Lee. I'm leading the Dark Sky International's New York State chapter. And so I just graduated from NYU with a master in urban data science. So I study and do a lot of research on light pollution, especially on remote sensing basis. And today I want to share about the urban light pollution and the solutions, especially Dark Sky International offers. And yeah, just a brief introduction. Right now I'm leading the New York State and Beijing chapter of the Dark Sky International. And just through the past decade, I did a lot of advocacy, mainly on the just sharing the basic knowledges, sharing all the basics about light pollution and all the solutions. And right now I'm just trying to get back to school and doing more research and try to solve all the unsolved problems myself. And brief introduction of the Dark Sky International. So the mission of Dark Sky is restores the nighttime environment and protects communities from the harmful effects of light pollution through outreach, advocacy, and conservation. So this organization is kind of the international leader in light pollution issues. And New York chapter is one of the many chapters of this organization. And we are happy to have anyone sign up with leave their email with us, so we can share more information. And yeah, on the specific issue of New York, you may saw this in the news in a couple in March, a couple months ago. And all the news is talking about New York State legislation proposed actually last year, and then they brought up again in the news, and a lot of people are talking about it. Many news have like misunderstanding or misrepresentation of that. Like the main problem is doing different actions to reduce the light pollution, not like a hard rule like asking everyone to turn off all the lights after 11. So we're gonna talk about more legislation later, and here is the legislation. Those bills we're talking about. So in the state assembly, there are two different bills were introduced. In the Senate, there's the S 507, which is identical with the Assembly A4615. And yeah, one of the sponsor right now is become the former president. So and another sponsor is, I think her district is overlay with your community board. And yeah, there is a map of all the state level legislation in the US. And New York has some like basic like public building law talking about that, for us it's not enough. So how the lights were enforced, there's an example of the Puerto Rico law which passed in 2008, many years ago. And as many states and also as many countries in this world, there is a huge problem of enforcement. So there's not enough people in the office to really enforce it. Another problem is many let's say Department of Building or other parts, other departments, they don't have really staff working at night. So they don't have the ability to really check what's going on. So in the case of Puerto Rico, there's one person working on this lighting situation, and the main job of him is really just passing permits of those billboards. So one way of utilize the light pollution law is just file a complaint or just go to that office and talk to him. Like for example, there is one lighthouse in Puerto Rico lighted up like super bright, which is not meet the law's requirements. And there is an advocate also of the Dark Sky International, just went to the office, talked with him, and then successfully turned off that light and bring all the Milky Way back to that set. And in the below, this one is also according to the law, they use a red light on the beach to specifically protect sea turtles. So that's how laws are enforced. And there are many national level laws also in the world. This is the Chinese law just passed in the several months ago. Still not enforced yet, but in a couple months it's gonna be enforced in the national law. And there are so many other countries in the world have those national level law, but not the case in the US. So there are many dark sky places. You can see the beautiful Milky Way in the US. But there are also many other places in this world you cannot see any or barely see any stars. This one is a case in New York City. When it's cloudy, you may notice some reflections in the weird reflections on the cloud, and this is New York. All the reflections you can see in this is on the Hudson River. And those are other cities, the Chinese cities. This one's Los Angeles. This one is located in an observatory, but this observatory is no longer like useful for any research purposes because it's right next, like right inside the city urban center. And you can see the sky glow, which is all the lights reflected probably due to like air pollution bouncing back and create a thin layer covers the whole city. And just through all the human or all the natural history, people start to use candles to light up the night, but soon it becomes something like this, which is absolutely unnatural for not just for human, but also for all the other wildlife, different for plants, for all different kinds of species. So I'm gonna talk what is light pollution, why we care, and how we can help to solve it. So according to dark sky, the definition of light pollution is the human-made alternation of outdoor light levels from those occurring naturally. So any kind of human-made artificial lights considered as light pollution, but some light pollution are helpful. We need them to for our security reasons or for any other kind of reasons. So we're now like against all light pollution, but some we against the irresponsible use of those lights and against those unuseful lights serving absolutely no purposes. So some types of light pollution, one is called glare, which most commonly you can see on a car headlight, and some buildings also have those glare where you cannot just straight like see that building. One example probably you can see it around the Brand Park. There's a huge floodlight on top of the building to like shine on the whole Brand Park. That one, like if you look straight to that light, that's glare. And light trespass is the light goes to it's not supposed to go, mostly into your neighbors or a sign from a building into a residential building. And sky glow is the light pollution like cover the whole city, which what we just saw the case of LA. And but the regulations and the laws, codes can help reduce this situation, reduce the sky glow. This is example of Flagstaff in Arizona. This is another city has no any like light pollution regulations. Flagstaff has a really strict. They were one of the first city in the whole world to regulate light pollution. And through their action, like compared with another city with a similar size, similar population, but the sky glow is hugely different. And this is an illustration of all kinds of light pollutions. Those part is actual useful light. We want to keep those lights, but we don't want the other lights which shines into your home. We don't want all the upward light which gonna reflect into the sky, and if it's cloudy, then gonna reflect back to the ground. And we don't want all the glare which means the light is not properly shielded, so you can actually see the light source and create the glare problem. And the problem is more is not equals better. This is a famous example of how bad light gonna affect your security. Like more light doesn't mean more secure. In the left picture, you can barely see there is someone hiding here near the doorway, and
my neighbor.
If you cover the lights, you can see someone is hiding there. You don't know if someone like have good or bad intention or just hiding there for something. Like it's the most important thing is properly shielded or properly adjusted, properly positioned light that can improve the actual security. And there are also other equity problems. This one is an example in the New York, those public housing programs. There were some researchers went to those locations, collaborated with NYPD and tried to do some research. They put some of those floodlights in those public housing locations, and they claim the crime rate was reduced. But there are many other factors influence the crime rate. And if you don't want to put some lights there, you absolutely do not want those floodlights, which just shines directly into your buildings. And there are media coverage on that, talking about how controversial those lights are, and those is also a big equity issue. And you just put those problematic lights in those public housing neighborhoods. For most of the richer communities where you have like your own house, those you have more control of your own lights or your community's lights. So which means most of the backlights were affecting more poor or like underrepresented communities. And light pollution is also a global issue. Most of the world living under a rosy sky and cannot see the Milky Way, and it's growing globally pretty fast. And in the case of US, this is from the satellite data. But only those places can see Milky Way. Definitely not in the New York metro area. You have to go either Catskill or on the tip of the line to see some Milky Way. And those places in the US are the only places left which did not really impact by human by artificial lights through the whole history. So now not many places are left for us to see the real natural sky. And why we care, because the light pollution affects wildlife and ecosystem, affect human health, waste energy and money, and not necessarily improve safety, and affect our cultural heritage. For astronomy, human see the stars and inspired by them through the whole history of human being, and we also build telescopes to research to study our universe. But light pollution means there are less places to do astronomical research. This one is in Tucson, near Tucson, Arizona, where it's supposed to be super dark, supposed to be the capital of the US astronomical research. But right now it's affected by light pollution from nearby Tucson, especially from the Phoenix metro area, which is 100 miles away, but you can still see those lights from Phoenix. And this is a case globally where a lot of observatories are moving further away from all the cities. And this is a problem for all the astronomers. They have to live in super remote places to do their research. And in fact, the natural world, there, one example is the saber-toothed. At night, they cannot identify where is the ocean because they normally find all the places with the bright places, because it used to be the ocean because they reflect the moonlight, reflect starlight. So the ocean is supposed to be the brightest place at night. But right now, the nearby like oceanside roads and have all the street lights lighted up, or all the housing lighted up. So they just miss their direction. They sometimes went to the straight to the roads and crashed by the cars. So this is a huge problem. And another problem is all the species living at night, like owls or and birds. Those are some common things we can say in New York City also. And in the case of birds, especially in urban areas, all the tall buildings, skyscrapers are hitting up to 1 billion birds a year in the US. And light pollution is one part of the problem. And also daytime light pollution, especially those glasses reflecting sky, and those birds have no clue, like it's the sky or it's a building and then crash. And so both daytime light pollution and nighttime light pollution are potent problem for the birds. And here is a map we can see for the bird migration patterns, and New York just happens to be on a lot of birds migration on their way. And one of the problem New York has is 911 tribute light. So luckily we have some people in the city of New York caring about this issue, and they volunteered, as you can see on the right this picture. There are some people volunteering like every year, just looking at those lights. So say if there are too many birds are trapped by those lights, miss their direction, we're gonna turn off the lights for a period of time, like letting the birds to go to where they're supposed to go. But this is an example, like we balance the bad effect of those lights, and how we can, in the meantime, to help those bad effects. And insects another problem, but luckily like for last year and I think this year we already started the Firefly seasons and in Central Park and in many other parks in the city you can see fireflies. They return after many years. So this is a good sign of the ecosystem is recovering, but light pollution is one of the major threat to those fireflies and all the pollinators affected by the lights, which not just pose problem for those insects themselves, but also for the plants where it needs those pollinators. And here are some data on that. So, like the bats, there are some bad lightings under or near the bridges, which gonna affect what's under those bridges, all the fishes, all the whole ecosystem under in those water area, the fishes, the marine ecosystem, and also light pollution affect the plants. One example is the trees. Near the street lights and further away, you can see two totally different seasons. And those heat and light generated by street lights gonna confuse those plants. And though there are many researchers study those problems, those effects, and in the farmer area also you can say the soybean production or any a lot of researches on the different effects. Also, people are using those lights for maybe grow dragon fruits, and those are considered useful lights. But we definitely don't want those lights to pass beyond those farms, and also affect climate change because we wasted so much energy and on those unnecessary lights. And all the upward lights are basically wasted because like no one really flying in the sky and need those lights. And all the energy. This is old data. The research conducted by the U.S. Department of Energy and other researchers talking about how much energy were wasted by lighting. And in fact, public health is another problem. People need healthy darkness. We were all used to the natural way of both the brightness level and also the color temperature. We used to living in natural cycles where you can see super bright white sunlight during the day, but near the sunset, it's becoming more orange amber-ish, and the brightness level is also get lower. And this is how human body were adjusted through the whole history, and that's why those unnatural artificial lights are posing all different kinds of health problem for people. So the most ideal way is we can for indoor we want to have a nice environment to work, to study. We want to be concentrated. We need those super bright whitish lights in the office building. But not when you get back home when you're ready to sleep, you definitely don't want your lights to be too bright and don't want those lights to be too white, too blue, and you want those yellow and lower color temperature lights to help you with your melatonin release and help you adjust to your sleep fast. And when you wake up, you want more bright, more lights, more exposure to get you ready for the day. So it's really a problem of how the timing, the correct timing, the correct brightness and correct color temperature. Yeah, high level of light pollution correlated with many different diseases according to a lot of different researches. And yes, modern phones also a problem, posing a problem before you sleep. So there are a lot of modern phones have the function to turn on night mode or shift the color to more yellowish, so help you to get speed better. So how can we help to solve the light pollution issue? We need to know first, have the awareness of light at night. It is pollution just like other air pollution, noise, just like all other kind of problem, but it can be solved at the speed of light. It's easiest form of like the pollution you can solve is not like air pollution. You're gonna need to shut down factories, to relocate factories, have different like decades of effort to reduce, but light pollution is much faster to be solved. And it does not mean to turning off all the lights. So here's one illustration. We can say the dark skies idea is those shining those upward lights are absolutely unacceptable because they are not useful, and those are bad lights. It's partially shielded. There are no upward lights, but there are still a lot of lights are gonna be wasted. So those are more like the Central Park cell lights. And a better way of lighting is have the correct angle, so the lights are not shining to other areas, just direct to where you need them. And the best way is put timers and more controls on them, like motion sensor, and dim them maybe like after midnight or after less people are there. Let's say like Central Park, they close at night, so like absolutely close, why you still have those lights on. In summary, I have 5 principles for responsible outdoor lighting at night. This is drafted by Dark Sky International and also the IES. One is useful, another is targeted, low level, controlled, and warm color. This is a more detailed chart to explain what it means for each term. Useful, just use light only if it needed and it's properly targeted. So it's only falls to where you need it. And low level, just bright enough for your need. And it's controlled, so it have timer and motion sensor set up there. And also warm color. So to make sure it's better for not just for your health, but also for the wildlife, where through the history of evolution and all the species are already adjusted to those warm colored lights. And one of the solution is have the lights shielded. This is an example provided by the New Jersey chapters. They put the shields on his light, and you can clearly see the angle, that which means there are no lights wasted pointing to his neighbor or pointing to the sky. And another way is telling people about this. More lights doesn't mean better safety, and also caring more about all different communities, not just like wealthy neighborhood. And thinking about the size to the dark sky is should not be a privilege, should not limited to people who can afford to travel hours to go to some like remote camping site and see the stars. It's supposed to a thing for everyone. And another way is getting more international dark sky places set up. So this is the one program of Dark Sky International to recognize those not just super remote places, but also communities who have their lighting ordinance set up to specifically control the level of light pollution. So you can see some of the international dark sky communities category and also urban night sky places category. Those 2 categories, you can see them in some big cities. For example, there's one in China was recognized several years ago. It's located in Shenzhen, which is in the one of the largest metro area on Earth, and they still figure out some place and have a really good lighting ordinance to control the lights and be recognized internationally. And also do more study research or do research yourself to figure out how like gonna really impact the safety or impact this one is just coming up like couple of months ago, citing how different road lights gonna impact the road safety for drivers and pedestrians, and their conclusion is there are not much difference if you use like different brightness and different color temperature. So safety is not gonna be affected that much, and most important thing is actually let the pedestrian and cyclist be seen by the drivers. Like the most important thing is how the pedestrians represent themselves and the drivers can see them clearly. That's the much more important part than have the like be much brighter and have like super wide. Those are is important. And also LED lights is not always be the like one solution that you think like you convert those old type of lights to more than LED, and you think it's the job is done, you save a lot of and money, you save a lot of energy bill. But there are still problems if you are not using those LED lights properly. And good designs, it's not just looks better, and it's also reduce a lot of wasted energy, and reduce a lot of the CO2 emission. And also good design of lights is not means you like living completely darkness. You can still have those on the red side. This is international dark sky community, I think in Germany, and it's still light it up, but it's cozy, and you can have a really nice community and light there. But you definitely don't want those lights on the left where you can see the empty parking lots where there's no car there, no one's really need those lights, but those lights are on for the whole night. This is also a problem in the New York City. I know some places that have those lights on all night. Even though they are sometimes like properly shielded, they are directed well, they are not like their neighbors, but like why you have them on all night. So in the case of also in the case of New York, it's we have some buildings turn off their lights after 3 AM mostly. And yeah, some buildings turn off their lights after midnight. Some of them 1 AM, 2 AM, 3 AM. I think Empire State Building sometimes turn off at 3 AM. And that is one way of helping that, but the ideal way is still reduce the brightness, reduce the occasion of light them up, and maybe bring the timer, like bring the turn off time earlier. That's also a solution. And this is the parking lot I was talking about. This is actually belongs to Con Edison, and I can tell it's the direction is fine. It's not really shining to the neighborhood, but why you have them on first place? So
it's free.
It's our money.
It's free to them. That's what it is.
Yes, this is weather angle. You can see this after 3 AM, and a lot of buildings did their job, turned off the lights, but this parking lot is still the same. And so this is a new problem we've seen here with the new JP Morgan building, especially like most of the time is kind of okay-ish with their amber lights, but sometimes they have different red colors for different occasions. So this is the video during their testing period. All the red light be reflected on the East River. Also a huge problem. This is this problem was powered by New York Times, and I got interviewed there And just it's absolutely unnecessary, and it's kind of set up an example for other buildings, and more buildings probably just learn from them and have similar program. Actually, this is another example. It's not in this picture, but there are a couple new buildings, I guess in the Hudson Yard or like Manhattan West area. They also install those LED panels. But it's
I love the way it looks.
but not in that brand new level, maybe, or be turned off at after a certain time. So then talk about the legislation on that. This is the New York State law that already there. So this is probably the only like New York State level law talking about lighting restrictions. And there are two specific light pollution related law passed in 2018. One is talking about both of them are talking about city-owned buildings or the buildings the city are rented. So one is talking about have controls installed on those lights, so the lights were not wasted that much. It's more about like saving energy. And another one is for the bird migration seasons, asking the building to turn off the lights at certain time at night and for the certain days of the year to specifically for the birds, but it's not enough. It's just for city-owned buildings. So we just hope those can be applied to more buildings, especially for the bird migration seasons. That is, those buildings should do their part to have those birds. And yeah, those are the two bills, or right now is part of the New York City law, and there's another New York City law that was proposed and actually was passed by the state like more than 2 decades ago. But then many voices were against that law. Some of them from New York City, like Department of Transportation, they were against that law. And at the end, the governor didn't sign this bill. So although it passed, but the governor didn't sign. There are more light pollution bills were proposed in the state level, and some of them like reintroducing every session, but still now being passed. So those are the one I showed in the beginning, and also made into the news and people were talking about it. But there are still a lot of effort need to do to at least leave them beyond the committee stage. And also there are many New York City proposed bills. Those three are some examples of the from last session's proposed bills, and none of them are even able to get out of the committee, and some of them are proposed because of this famous owl from the Central Park Zoo, and some of the news and many New Yorkers hearing about that, and the one of the reasons this all was died without passed into the building, and that's why some of the bills are proposing ways to regulate how the building facade look like and how the lights should be on. And this one in particular is introduced last section, but we are right now a group of advocates are reintroducing it. Probably the end of this month, June 29th, and lead by
Harvey Epstein.
Yeah, so it's the main sponsor is him, and also lead by a group of different legislators, council members, and we just hope they can and also get more media coverage and have more exposure. But this bill is specifically targeting commercial and educational buildings. And I personally think there are many room to improve in this bill, but as those corrections can be made after the reintroduction, but most important is to get it reintroduced, get it on the table for debate, and get more people's attention, get more support from other council members. And those are the three bills that were already introduced in this session this year. One of them is talking about color temperature of the streetlights. One of them talking about the residential area, more about like the brightness level. And then another one is talking about adding controls of the streetlights, more related to the DOT area. And in the case of New York, we have a 311 call to have light pollution related areas. One is you can complain about light from parking lots, which is kind of weird. I don't know why you only care about parking lots. So if you see some like super bright lights came from your neighboring parking lot shining directly into your window, you can call 311. But if it's from another residential or commercial buildings, they specifically listed on their website, like you cannot call 311 for that. You have to talk with the owner directly to solving that. So this is a vacancy the city can improve. And another two complaints you can always want for the building sign. And this one specifically also listed if the building sign is too bright and they fall into the residential rooms, and you can call 311 for that. And there are also different zoning resolutions. Like I just run a AI search and they all, so it's falling to different zoning resolutions and the rules of the city by the BOD and the DOB and all the in different sessions, all the permits rules and in the administrative code, just fall into so many different sections, and it's a little bit tragic, I think. And there are not nearly zero articles we're talking about quantitative stuff. So it's all about like, oh, if you see a glare or if it's impacted or if it's some lights or some like signs or on with no permit, you can call and maybe someone gonna change it, gonna really enforce those codes, but still like you have no way to quantify them yourself. You cannot like hold a professional equipment and say this is red. There's no like corresponding terms in the law to which you can maybe even sue them or do those things. And advertising sign is one of the complaints you can do, but it is they didn't really say much about the light part. And then the street light complaint, which is mainly just for broken street lights. So I think there are many things can be added on the 311 list. And this is a template Dark Sky provided. So they provided the template and user guide for both state level legislation and municipal level of lighting ordinance. Those gonna help the legislators to learn or to borrow the idea to in a more technical way to implement locally. And one of the example probably your community board is more caring about is the illuminated signage. So this one is a short supplement of the template, but you can see some of the more technical and quantitative ways of
Can you repeat
regulate
that?
those light with if it's possible to be proposed to be introduced by the city and by for the city council and yeah, just some of the idea can be borrowed and here's some of the research about light pollution and there's a famous map you can use this website. There are many different layers to view the light pollution level. And this on the left is NASA's satellite data about the light pollution in the city, and we can definitely say this community is the most like the brightest.
Residential, right?
place.
No,
No.
that's the point.
On the right side is the data taken by a Chinese satellite, with a much higher resolution, and you can see in the zoom in level, you can see this is in like 10 meter resolution, and you can see the distribution of where are all the light pollution came from. And this area is definitely the brightest part across the whole city. Plus maybe the airports is some of the other, but airports are necessary light. So airports need those lights, but are we really need those lights here? And this is a RGB image of the same data. So you can see all the mix of different colors in this community, which a mix of color is also another problem, which gonna confuse all the people's eye, confuse all the wildlife's eye. And there are many researchers are studying those lights. For example, this is a project called Urban Observatory. It's part of the NYU in my where I studied the Center of Urban Science and Program. We have those hyperspectral cameras set up on top of the buildings in Berkeley, and we look over the whole city and trying to analyze all different light types and all the patterns of the energy consumption because of those lights. And there are also community projects, those citizen science projects where you can just go out and look at the stars and how many stars in a certain constellation you can see and report them and to those websites. This is a global project. So people are gonna learn the distribution of light pollution, but most important, it's a good tool to engage in the community, engage in all the ordinary citizens, engaging students to learn about light pollution, to be aware of the issue, to just really look up at the sky and realize by themselves we cannot see much stars, especially in the urban area. So yeah, this is our dark sky community. So it's many supporters, many members, delegates, chapters across the whole world. We have different nice dark sky places certified. We have all the approval program to approve all different luminaires. And also even we approve the sports lighting. So one of the good example is actually the US Open sites. Those stadiums were those lights were properly designed and designed by a company really specialized in sports lighting, but they do care about light pollution. So those US Open area, you can barely see those lights from outside those area, and they have like really precise control even the audience seats cannot really see the light source, so they can really shine the lights onto the field and not really into audience eye. So this is what like precise control means. So yeah, that's it. Just welcome any questions and
Yeah, can you go back, can you go back to the slide where it has the 311 calls?
what
The slide, the 311, the 311 calls, can you go back to that slide? Oh. So we have an application that's coming before us, we don't know, next month or in the fall, about advertising signage in Herald Square, directly opposite Herald Square, Vest Pocket Park. And it's also directly opposite a hotel. And we need to think about Herald Square. We already have Times Square at 34th Street and 7th Avenue. Have any of you been there at night to see how incredibly bright it is? My concern is I don't want it growing across the city. If we are going to encourage residential use, we've really changed our neighborhood, and so it now has to be a livable community. And these lights, the advertising signage is not conducive to a livable community. So I'm very concerned about that. That's why we're having this lecture tonight. Is there any way to get a list of what those complaints were? I mean, it would be interesting to kind
There's
of, for Midtown, what's going on in Midtown.
So if you go to the like the NYC open data portal, there's one called the 311 service request.
Same that we used. Yeah. So I have a question. Nancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Royo. Am I pronouncing it
Yeah,
correctly?
yeah.
Well, thank you, Royo, and to the Dark Sky. This was a brilliant presentation. And Nancy, thank you so much for bringing this really important health issue to our attention. So, Royo, what access do we have? How much research information, how much data is there on personal health? For example, I know that in the last 10, 15 years, when I've started paying much closer attention to my own circadian rhythm, started turning out all my electronics at night, getting up and getting that first light, and then leaving the city for the country to be able to see and hear the birds and the animals and the night sky. What a huge personal health improvement that's been for me. How much data, whether it's anecdotal, through individuals, through research studies, do we have on this individual personal health?
I'll say a lot. There is a data set actually. If I can pull up the link somewhere. So there is a even data set. So this is someone who's I can just put the which text. So this is a page talking about the research on the light pollution issue, and it considers a link to the database. So those there's so this is a database of all different research, and they were labeled by different publications about light pollution.
Can you make
like
the URL
human health.
larger? Is it just Zotero?
Yeah.
Okay.
And those are all the human health related research, lots of them. And if you go to this website, there Dark Sky with collaborate with researchers to have a summary of the each year's state of the science. So we should a summary of this year's newest research on light pollution. And
And then artificial light at night,
Yeah.
ALAN is very.
Yeah, it's led by Dr. John Barrington, and actually there's gonna be a webinar tomorrow talking about the last year's newest research on life motion.
Are
And,
you looking to do a reso tonight?
Oh, no, we,
Okay.
no, we have to wait until the application comes.
Okay.
But there's one other thing health-wise that you did not mention, and that is that people that suffer from epilepsy have problems with flashing lights
And bipolar disorder.
and bipolar. And so I don't know what the percentage of residents are in the city, but these are real health issues. Where there are people in the city that can't look at, for example, the flashing lights on city bikes is a problem for them.
Yeah, so there are two components of the health impact. One is viral impact, another is non-viral impact. So the non-viral part, like for example, during the time you sleep, if the lights, like you can have a light that is just enough to say what is what in this room. You can say this is people, this is your bed, so you cannot. So it's so this is kind of the maximum level light you can have during your sleep that will really impact your health. So anything beyond that, like anything like can allow you to read a book, those lights are means too bright for your health, for your melatonin release, and it's also can cause a lot of cancer and all different.
Or I suppose
problems.
if you need sunglasses, don't look at a sign, which I feel like I need. The other thing is that these building owners can get an enormous amount of advertising money for having these signs on their buildings. I don't know if anyone can find out what the average rental is, but I know it's weekly. You have a weekly contract, but I don't know how much it is. So if anyone knows anybody in advertising. The signs, the LED billboards, which are called flashing high illuminated signs, advertising signs, are getting brighter. They're becoming less expensive. They're bigger, getting bigger and bigger because the technology is allowing it. And in addition, the JP Morgan building now has lighting installed inside the facade. That's also a new technology. So as these new technologies come into our city, it's creating problems for us. And the brightness of the JP Morgan building is not so much when it's got like low light, but you saw how bright it can be. That for people that are living in the city, that could be a problem for them. Anyone have any other questions?
Problem that most people don't recognize. I mean, it's causing them health issues that they have no idea that this is one of the sources.
Well, and as it grows and continues, and we now have someone coming and asking for a text amendment.
And we should think of it I mean, we are talking about pollution. We're talking about a toxic environment and what we as representatives of the public are doing.
So you'd have time to do research over the next month or couple of months in your spare time, check it out and see what you can learn and form an opinion about it. I think that a couple of things is we can say maximum lumens. We can say at 9 p.m. you dial it down 50%. At midnight it goes off.
Change the color to
Or just dumb it, dial it down the intensity down, and then at midnight shut it off. What do you need to have midnight advertising signage?
Yeah, time and also direction is also a factor. Like,
Yeah,
right.
You don't want
we
those.
considered
lights.
all of this for the Times Square building, the Coca-Cola sign.
I think this is okay in Times Square.
No, I think we should talk
But
about
I
it at
don't
Times
think
Square
it
too.
should be, but I don't think Times Square should be everywhere. That's the problem. I don't think Times Square should be in the sky on tops of buildings.
Well, my point is there is new technology now where the spread of the light can also be contained.
Yes.
And we saw that with the new sign that went up in Times Square. So we should, in fact.
Were we, I don't
Yeah.
recall that.
Yeah.
Why don't I recall
Across,
that?
across on the Marriott Marquis.
Yeah.
It was how the light.
The
I don't know if I remember.
When they combined two signs
There's
into one.
four signs in the
Okay,
two,
right,
yeah.
right.
I think Manil's point is proper, but yes, we have, we have certain silos that we have to work in, but I think it's important because with innovation, we very quickly see a lot of pros and a few individuals, huge profits, but it really takes time to see the damage that's.
Yeah, and then once you already have it installed, it's really difficult to reverse it. Now, one of the things that the Department of Buildings has told our district office here is that in C6-7 districts, this is allowed. And we've got to find out more about that. It's very unclear. Now, I understand that Harvey Epstein's legislation does not include C6-7 districts. It has B districts and what B and
they plan to
and
add
D, I think.
B and
But-
M.
B and M, but not C. So I think
No.
you need to look at C6-7 commercial.
Do we know the
No,
internal
Penn Station
number?
is M, isn't it?
What's that?
Penn Station, this area around Penn Station would be M, wasn't it?
I don't know.
There's
It's
a
probably
also,
C,
there's a-
probably C6-7.
Do we know the intro number of Harvey's bill?
0896-2024.
And then there's a 2026, but this is, we're concerned about digital billboards, illuminating, flashing, advertising, signage. We're gonna focus on that. So we need to know if there are any bills that are covering that. Those restrictions. That's really what we're looking for, because that's what's coming before us next. And if we have a resolution that we want to write, we're gonna have to put in some limits on what we want to see with this. We may just deny it outright, because I don't see a reason to have this. It's strictly for a revenue stream for this building, has nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah,
telling
we
you
don't see the
it's not
opposition.
telling you, it's not identifying a place. It's advertising. They're selling advertising. They're using their building to sell advertising.
And why are they coming to us? I'm just curious.
Because I don't think it's as of right, because they want to go up 60 feet.
Why
60
would-
feet, that's
Oh,
like,
is that why it's not right?
I don't know. I think you're allowed to go up to 40 feet, but not 60 feet.
Oh, I see.
And why would they think
Not sure.
they're okay with it? Just curious.
Well, they don't know. I mean, I'm still,
Just saying, right?
I'm
Go
still
through
studying it,
your
but if
hiring
any of you
bodies,
have any
you know,
information and you would like to study
professionals.
this and get back to me, I'd appreciate your help on doing more research on this, see if what you can find out. I'm working on it with George a little bit. We'll start working on it, but we have a little time because the application will not be certified until after the 13th of July, which it will come to us at our meeting in August for our September board meeting. So
Yeah, so I'm a little familiar with the light legislation that was passed in Puerto Rico. Spent a lot of time there. But a question for both of you, is there model legislation in any city, anywhere around the world that we should?
I understand Pittsburgh.
Okay, so we should be looking at this and taking it to our council members.
There's something called the bug, I told you, the bug rating system,
Yeah.
Yeah.
backlight, uplight, glare.
Pittsburgh really nice example for the whole US.
It's what?
It's just like really good example for the whole US. It went to the media, like covered by New York Times many times.
This is Pittsburgh legislation?
No, this one is a template by the Dark Sky International.
Oh, okay, so
So
maybe
this
that's.
is
Is that the zoning, language? No, do you know what he's talking about?
You mean this one or the Pittsburgh one?
template by Dark Sky.
Oh, it's dark sky template, okay.
Yeah.
But legislation that's been passed in a particular city, as far as you know, is Pittsburgh. And is there any other places in the world rather than a template where they pass this kind of?
Yeah, there's a good one in Tucson, Arizona. So it's Tucson, the city of Tucson and the Pima County, they passed the same ordinance together. So this is a
More, but that Tucson is a very flat, I mean, it doesn't really. Julie,
I just want to flag that,
what?
it's not one size fits all where other cities can be brought to New York City. So I think the legislation that's already on the table at city council and the Harvey Weinstein one are maybe more appropriate for us to review, just because they probably adapted it to our conditions.
Okay,
So then expand on that.
but Harvey Epstein's, legislation doesn't talk about C6-7.
It could if.
If
it
we
comes to
make,
us
yeah.
And we make suggestions.
That's,
Yeah.
okay. So
Well, even
add,
if
so
it did,
add to
I mean,
that.
So,
It's gonna
so
take
so what
time.
I'm doing is I'm kind of priming the pump here. I'm
Yeah.
saying, I'm passing along information that I have. I don't have all the answers. I'm not an expert. I've been doing some research. We had this gentleman come and speak with us. Isabel has been working on it. We've been getting lots of complaints in the board office about these digital billboards that really don't have permits, but no one makes a big fuss, so they just let it slide. It's sort of like, well, no one's told me anything, like the JP Morgan building.
Yeah.
No one's really said, don't do that, so why not?
And more generally speaking, you know, the long time habits in New York of different management companies to leave all the lights in the building on all night because they have some bizarre idea decades ago that it costs more money to turn it off and then turn it back on. I don't know how that can be, but there must be research on this too.
So I'd just like everybody to think about it and we'll have a robust discussion in August. But
Okay, so
come with information and ideas and concepts.
is the incoming applications for the digital LED board or the just illuminated sign?
We are getting an application to install a highly illuminated digital billboard on the southwest corner of 34th Street and 6th Avenue. And it's on a building that has a chamfered facade, so it's not rectilinear, it's flat on 6th Avenue, then it goes on a diagonal, then it's flat on 34th Street. So this is gonna be directly facing into Herald Square. So it's gonna be very prominent and bright, because there's no limits on the brightness. Once they get the permit, they can do whatever they want. So I don't want us to be surprised that this is gonna come to us. I want us to be thinking about it. Okay.
Any
Any other comments or questions? I don't think we have. Is there anyone, Libby, you have anything to say about all this?
No, I think that it's actually really important that we're looking at all the different elements of this. And I'm happy that we're paying a lot more attention to it, and I'm really excited to comb through the Zotero and all the citations.
There's no more business. Adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.